Hey, what up? It's Boyd, and in this video, I'm gonna show you exactly how to get rid of any limiting pattern, any limiting behavior that you've repeatedly engaged in and you really want to quit it, but at a other level in your psyche, you really do not. And what you gotta understand is that, a lot of people preach having just the discipline and the willpower to quit smoking or to quit overeating or to start working out or to start, working harder, whatever it may be. But this willpower and this discipline is a finite resource. Like every day you get a certain amount of it, and once you use all of that, it is gone. So it's really not something that is a lasting strategy that will create a lasting change for you. So then what would create a lasting change? Let's zoom in on that word discipline for a moment, because if you think about discipline, it really implies that you have to discipline, you have to push yourself to a certain extent because you do not actually want to do something at some level, right? So obviously it kind of makes sense, like you don't want to stop eating cheesecake, so it would require discipline. However, if you look into the reasons that you want to eat a cheesecake or that you would not want to eat a cheesecake and you expand and work with those, then you might not really need discipline or just very little of it, right? And that's what we're gonna do in this video. I'm gonna share some stuff with you that's gonna be very different than the other general YouTube videos on like free tips to stop procrastinating and all that shit, which is just gonna operate at a behavior level, a very superficial, psychological strategy to make change, and usually not lasting. So obviously there are things that are productive that you can do, so like getting up earlier or whatever, these things, or being in a good momentum or not, having your phone around. This is actually a second phone, if you're trying to limit your social media use. It's all very useful, but if we really want to quit something on a lasting basis, and we don't want to exert all of our mental capacities on that thing, on quitting that thing, then what we really have to do, and now I'm going to get to the meat and potatoes of this video. So what we have to do is align your values, the things that are most important to you in life, towards quitting or starting that thing that you're trying to either start or quit, right? You're either trying to quit a behavior or you are trying to start a certain behavior. And really, if you're doing one of those, you're always going to do the other one. If you're trying to start working out, you're trying to quit being unhealthy, whatever it may be. So, if you're trying to change this behavior, what you really want to do is, first of all, you want to understand that your brain basically weighs up the pleasure that something gives you and the pain that something gives you. So right now, your brain most likely associates more pleasure towards doing that behavior that you have in your mind right now that you would like to quit than pain towards it. And that's why you keep doing it. But zooming in on that, where do these pain, pleasure feelings really come from? They come from your values, your value system that's in your subconscious, right? But if you think about it, if you focus on it, you can actually, bring it to the surface, bring it conscious, change it, and bring it unconscious again, hypnotically, so that you actually get these permanent changes. However, if you ask yourself, just a simple exercise for you to do right now, if you ask yourself, what's most important to you in life? Okay? And then what you want to do is you want to design the change you want to make around these values. Okay? So the goals that you have in life, and let's, for right now, keep a goal just quitting this behavior or shifting this behavior. You want to associate your values towards doing that thing, okay? Towards the thing, towards the desired behavior, okay? And you want to disassociate those values from, the present behavior that you do not want anymore, okay? So let me give you a very practical example just to explain, this kind of wishy-washy that I've been, speaking about right now. For me, I wanted to quit drinking alcohol for the longest time, right? But I was having a hard time because obviously drinking alcohol, it gives you a lot of pleasure, not just in the moment with your hormones and stuff like that, and your dopamine and stuff like that, but also it gives you connection with people. It makes you more confident in the moment, right? It makes you able to have more fun. So there's a lot of upside, but there's also a lot of downside. Obviously, there's big downsides. You get a hangover, it's your health, all these things, right? But These things were all important to me and they all really sucked, trust me. But it wasn't enough to really push me over the edge of actually quitting it. It was not like I was addicted or anything like this, but you know, I went out like 3 times a week and I would drink and stuff like that. So
no, not exactly.
I wanted to do that without drinking. So at one point, I really, you know, kind of realized that the most important thing for me in life is, you know, personal growth. So at one point, I realized, you know, I wasn't really aware of the whole values structure and stuff like that, but I just realized that personal growth, you know, had always been like my #1 priority in life, right? It was just something I was very passionate about. You know, I always wanted to grow and expand and, you know, improve myself as a person, even before I really knew what it was, you know, self-development and stuff like that. I remember one time we had to, it was kind of like a little values thing in high school, and my #1 thing was personal growth, and everybody was amazed that I put that down because I was really not the person that you would think instantly would have that type of value. But either way, you know, that kind of was brought up to the surface again. And then that's step 1. Be aware of what your highest values are, what's most important to you in life. And number 2 is, and here it gets interesting, you wanna associate that value to the change, okay? So that you're gonna increase that most important value of yours when you make that change. So here, I'll explain it to you practically. Stopping drinking. What I started to do is I started to figure out how much drinking really limits you in your personal growth. And it's massive. It's massively limiting in your personal growth, because anytime that you're out socializing, you know, at night, you're just gonna be drunk, right? You're gonna be relying on a crutch to be able to communicate, to be able to feel confident, to feel at ease in these environments. So that's #1. Number 2, obviously you're gonna have a hangover, right? Your health is gonna depreciate, and all of these things also tie into your personal growth. But you know, that first part was really the biggest one for me. It was just that, you know, it limits my personal growth, my communication skills, it limits my own confidence, it limits my presence as a person, it limits my energy, it limits who I'm gonna connect with, all of these things. And when I really realized all these things and I tied it to, you know, personal growth, that alcohol was severely limiting my personal growth, I quit it like that. And it was like no discipline needed whatsoever. Maybe slightly, but honestly, seriously, it really doesn't take me any discipline or willpower. And there's a lot of people at that point in time. It was actually when I was 18 that I did that and I quit. And after that, my businesses took off and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, it was a great decision amongst some other decisions that I made in that period of time. But a lot of people back then, they all told me like, dude, that's so fucking impressive that you have the willpower and strength and stuff to do that. Because obviously there's a lot of peer pressure, like, oh, why aren't you drinking? You should drink, whatever. People find it weird, whatever. Like, if your own frame is strong enough, then that's not a worry at all. Like right now, if I meet someone, if I'm out or whatever, and you know that happens, we get into this conversation, it's more of a, they start feeling weird about drinking than the other way around. So don't get me wrong, but at that time, you know, at 18 years old, might have been a little bit different and it was a little bit hard. But the thing is, and the point I want to make to you here, the point is not to talk about myself, I'm just trying to give you a very practical and easy example. But all these people were saying, you're so disciplined, it's impressive, these types of things, but it really didn't require any discipline from me because it was aligned with my highest values in life. And this is something you can do with yourself, right? Just find out your highest values in life and then tie that change to it, okay? So I'll give you a different example. I had this dude who was a client wanting to work on his confidence, right? It was the first call that I had with him. And then the first step to really creating any change is actually that leverage, right? Creating that motivation in a person to actually, you know, make the change. And then obviously from there you can do some other things, some repenting, whatever it may be. But that's really the first step. So, you know, I kind of got his blueprint, and his most important value by far was freedom. And not just freedom to, you know, live anywhere or whatever, but also the freedom to just act how he wants and, you know, say what he wants and be able to express himself authentically and congruently in any setting. And obviously, to be able to do that requires, you know, confidence, courage, these types of things. And that's what he wanted to grow in, but that requires, then again, going through some discomfort. So we were creating some leverage, or I was doing this with him. I was really tying this through some question asking. He was tying this himself. You know, it's one thing to tell somebody, but it's another thing to have someone discover these things on their own. That's way more powerful. So it got to the point where he just had this aha moment when he connected this freedom value of his and the fact that, him not, stepping up and being courageous and confident and stuff like that was limiting his freedom so much. And actually it was limiting his freedom way more than his financial situation. It was limiting his freedom way more than his living situation, whatever it may be. Like, at the end of the day, the ability to go out and speak to anyone and, be in a meeting and speak up, and be comfortable in any situations and just have that freedom. I sometimes say confidence equals freedom, because that feeling of being enough, that feeling of, having that confidence allows you to do anything you want because you just feel like you can. And obviously, anytime any person is gonna step into some discomfort at some point, you're gonna feel some anxiety or whatever. It could be if you're jumping from a plane, whatever it may be. There's different situations, right? But at the end of the day, that's real freedom to me. Like, that's even more important than being able to manage your own time and schedule and stuff like that. Because if you really think about it, these people that are being suppressed and not able to say what they want, in certain cultures or whatever, that's really the worst thing. So anyways, getting back to this client, when he made this connection, it was like, oh shit. And it was like, okay, I'm ready now to go to the next level. I'm ready now to take this next step, because all of a sudden his brain associated so much pain to, not being courageous, not stepping up and stuff, not being confident, that it just switched like that. And then now it's not gonna require him any discipline or whatever to work on this attribute of his, to keep stepping into discomfort, to create and cultivate this identity, right? And now we're speaking about an identity, but you can obviously also tie this into whatever it may be, like someone who's smoking, like I've had that recently as well. And obviously you can do some stuff where, smoking seems disgusting to them and whatever, but the real thing is, like, if you're not working at this higher level with values and beliefs and this type of thing, then, it can be that, they quit smoking, but they're just gonna do something else, right? So you wanna kind of eliminate the whole segment instead of just this one thing and make them discuss that specific, very specific thing. Because if then, they're disgusted to smoking, you can do this in a little hypnosis. You can make them feel like a cigarette is the same as rotten chicken or shit or whatever it may be. But then, they might go to a fucking vape, whatever it may be. So you want to kind of work with this values approach, and then, they're just not gonna want any of those types of things in that segment that is destructive to them, essentially. So, with smoking, like, you can just elicit values on that as well. And you can tie smoking into personal growth. You can tie smoking into health. You can tie smoking into freedom even, because someone who smokes doesn't really have the freedom, because if he doesn't have cigarettes, he doesn't feel good. So how free are you really? So you can tie it into anything. You just need to make that connection in your brain, and then it'll be super easy. One other thing, coffee, caffeine. Right? It's another thing where, you can tie that into personal growth. You can tie that into self-esteem, because coffee makes you feel more outgoing. It makes you produce more dopamine in your brain. Like, for me personally, I really don't like to have coffee if I'm going to meet people and stuff like that regularly. I drink it every now and then, but that's for me a healthy balance. I don't want to do that, what I mentioned before, just because that would kind of limit me again, just like the alcohol thing, right? So find out. Number one, what is your destructive pattern or habit or whatever that you want to get rid of? Number two, what is most important to you in life? Okay, maybe 1, 2, or max 3 things that are just the most important. Number three, how does that destructive pattern limit your number 1 or number 2 values? Okay, how does it make it less? How does it limit you? And then really make that association as clear as possible, number 4, by just digging in. If you just Google, for example, with coffee, if you start Googling things, like maybe it's your confidence that's important to you. Coffee produces anxiety. Coffee produces a fight or flight state, produces cortisol, all these types of things, right? So you start Googling that stuff, you start making it real in your mind. With cigarettes, same thing, just start making it more real. Start building up more and more evidence of this fact, of this association, number 4 that I just told you. Start doing that more and more and more, okay? And look into books, whatever, just keep fucking digging in and finding more evidence that that association is real. And you're gonna find it, because really, The highest values of people are most likely the ones that are fucking up through these destructive patterns. You just find in practice that these links are always there. So start looking for that and break the pattern that way, okay? It's gonna work. You will not need discipline or very minor discipline to do this. The discipline that you will need is actually starting this right now. Don't just watch this video. Everybody here is gonna have some destructive pattern or habit that you wanna yank away, right? So let's do that right now. I've been a bit calmer in this video just because I just arrived here and I've been on flights for 2 days and I have literally slept 2 hours in 2 days. But as we were talking about, I'm still gonna do this video. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that you really put this into practice. Cut the fucking habit, shift your associations by looking at your values, making the association, and then expanding that association by digging in, finding evidence, and it'll be easier than ever for you to change. And you can use that willpower, right, for other things, that for your goals, for shifting towards that, for working towards that. And then with your goals as well, we'll do another video on that, but with your goals as well, you want to align those goals as well to your highest values. Okay, align those new money goals, those new relationship goals, whatever, to your highest values. But we'll do that in another video, okay? So I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one. And please, if you did enjoy this and if this was effective for you, drop a like, drop a comment, and make sure that you give back because I'm sure that's one of your highest values. I'll see you in the next one.